Urgent news, my friend. A tough Monday after the embarrassment. Let's see what went down and the fallout from Clement's actions. Here are today's updates. James Tavernier faces Philippe Clement axe at Rangers after Celtic calamity. Moussa Dembele brutally mocks Rangers after Celtic Old Firm defeat, calling it a waste of time. Tom English singles out Cyril Desires after what happened. Chris Sutton says Rangers fans should be worried about the club's direction. Chris Boyd delivers a scathing assessment of the Rangers squad after the Celtic defeat, calling it embarrassing. Rangers manager and players confronted by angry fans after the Old Firm loss. Make sure to like the video and stay tuned for daily updates. Whether in defeat or victory, we are the people. James Tavernier might just be on thin ice after that disaster against Celtic. Mark Wilson's not holding back, and honestly, who can blame him? Sunday's 3-0 at Celtic Park was tough to watch, and Tav's performance, or lack thereof, was a big part of the problem. Wilson, on BBC's Sports Scene, didn't mince his words. He's scratching his head, wondering why Philippe Clement keeps throwing Tavernier into the fire in these Old Firm derbies when it's clear he's struggling. And let's face it, we've seen this story before. Balls flying over his head, and before you know it, we're picking the ball out of our net. Now I get it. Tavernier's been with us for 10 years. And you'd think that kind of experience would mean he could handle the pressure. But against Celtic? It's like he forgets how to play. That first goal, the way Maida just ghosted in, Tav was miles off it. You've got to wonder if he's still the right man to lead us in these big matches. We were all a bit surprised when he stayed in Glasgow this summer, especially with all the transfer talk swirling around. Maybe, just maybe, it would have been better if he had moved on. Clement tried to shuffle things around, even moved Dujon Sterling into midfield to make room for Tav, but let's be real, that backfired big time. Sure, Tav can do the business against most of the Scottish Premiership sides, but when it comes to Celtic, we need a captain who can lead by example. Right now, it feels like we're miles away from closing the gap on them, and if Clement wants to change that, he's got some big decisions to make. Tavernier might just be the first one. Moussa Dembele, former Celtic star and professional thorn in our side, couldn't resist taking a jab at Rangers. The lad didn't hold back, did he? On his X account, he cheekily asked, "Why are we still playing them? Waste of time, but enjoying to see them crash again and again." Ouch, that one stings a bit, doesn't it? Now let's be real here. After a summer where we brought in 10 new faces and waved goodbye to another 10, you'd think we'd be a bit closer to giving Celtic a run for their money. But nope, Sunday's Old Firm derby was anything but close. Celtic ran circles around us, with Daisen Maida, Kyogo Furuhashi, and Callum McGregor each finding the back of the net. This defeat is a massive blow, especially when you consider how much we need that sweet Champions League cash to keep the lights on. The Hoops look like they're on cruise control to another SPFL title, and if we're not careful, these Old Firm drubbings could become a regular occurrence. And just when you think it couldn't get worse, the transfer window has only just slammed shut, leaving us to wait until winter to try and patch up the squad. Clement knew this job wasn't going to be a walk in the park, but Sunday's result is a harsh reminder of just how much work lies ahead. Tom English didn't hold back when he called out Cyril Desires for his performance. According to the BBC journalist, Desires was so thoroughly outmuscled by Cameron Carter-Vickers that it was like watching roadkill on the pitch. Ouch. The match itself was a brutal reminder of just how far off the pace we are compared to our rivals. Celtic dominated every meaningful aspect of the game, leaving us to win the yellow card count. Not exactly something to boast about, right? This season was supposed to be our big comeback, the year we finally gave Celtic a proper run for their money in the Scottish Premiership. But after that performance, it feels like we're still stuck in last year's rut. Despite all the new signings like Connor Barron and Robin Proper, sure, Desires might be banging in goals against the likes of Ross County, but if he can't deliver when it really matters, his time at Rangers might be short-lived. We're already 5 points behind Celtic, sitting in 4th place, and it's only September. There's still time to turn things around, but Clement needs to make some serious changes if he wants to be seen as a real title contender. Otherwise, we're in for another long, disappointing season. Chris Sutton is at it again, stirring the pot as usual. He's got a few things to say about our beloved Rangers after that not-so-pretty 3-0 loss to Celtic. Now, according to him, if you're a Rangers fan, you should be worried about where our club is heading. And you know what? He might have a point, but let's not throw in the towel just yet. Sutton reckons that Celtic, who've been running the show in Scottish football for the last decade, are still miles ahead of us. And after Sunday's showing at Celtic Park, where they sliced through us like a hot knife through butter, it's hard to argue with that. They've gone into the international break sitting pretty at the top of the Premiership, with Aberdeen breathing down their necks on goal difference. But here's where Sutton really twists the knife. He was on BBC 5 Live 606, chatting about the derby and our chances of giving Celtic a real run for their money this season. And let me tell you, he wasn't pulling any punches. He basically said that if you're a Rangers fan, you should be sweating bullets. Aberdeen's had a great start, and while he doubts they can keep it up, he was pretty blunt about us. He said we were miles off it on Sunday, especially considering Celtic sold their best player, Matt O'Reilly, and still managed to bring in some new faces during the transfer window. Sutton didn't stop there. He pointed out that Philippe Clement, our gaffer, has been talking about getting better by October or November. But here's the kicker. Sutton's not convinced Clement will even get that long. He mentioned that there was some grumbling from the fans on the coach back to Rangers. Apparently, a few of us weren't too happy, and Sutton's wondering if Clement's days are numbered. So, there you have it. Sutton's stirring the pot, and maybe there's some truth in what he's saying, but as always, it's up to us to keep the faith and hope that Clement and the boys can turn things around. Chris Boyd didn't hold back, did he? After watching Rangers get schooled 3-0 by Celtic, he came out swinging, saying not a single one of our boys would even get a sniff of the Celtic lineup. Ouch. But honestly, can you argue with him? The gap between the two sides right now feels like a chasm. Boyd put it plainly when he said, though, that was embarrassing. And he's right. We're out here hoping for miracles while Celtic are out there making things happen. The stats might suggest it was a closer game. Both sides had 4 shots on target from around 13 or 14 attempts, but anyone who watched knows it wasn't even close. We were second best all over the pitch, and if we're being honest, we were lucky to walk away with just a 3-0 scoreline. The big issue? We're miles behind Celtic, and that's a bitter pill to swallow. Philippe Clement and Niels Koppen are probably tearing their hair out after a transfer window that didn't go nearly as planned. They couldn't move players on quickly enough, which meant we didn't get all the reinforcements we desperately needed. Now we've got the international break to lick our wounds, but let's be real. It's hard to see us challenging for the league with performances like that. If we're going to lift any silverware this season, it's looking like the Cups are our best shot. So here we are hoping for better days, but knowing deep down we've got a lot of catching up to do. All right, let's paint the picture here, mate. The atmosphere at Rangers was nothing short of electric, but for all the wrong reasons. After yet another dismal showing against Celtic, this time a 3-0 thrashing, things boiled over when the Rangers squad returned to Rangers. And let me tell you, the fans were not in a forgiving mood. As soon as Philippe Clement and the players, including James Tavernier, stepped off the bus, they were met with a barrage of anger and frustration. We're talking expletives flying, the word losers echoing through the air, and shouts of embarrassments that cut deep. Clement, bless him, tried to reason with the crowd, pointing out that we had just as many shots on target as Celtic. But come on, who's counting stats when you're getting thumped 3-0? The fans weren't having any of it, telling him flat out that this squad is one of the worst they've seen in years. Ouch. One particularly irate supporter took aim at the club's spending decisions, mentioning the money poured into new Edmiston House at Rangers. His point? That cash should have gone into strengthening the squad, not sprucing up the stadium. And then there's Tavernier. The captain, who's been through the wars with us, got an earful too. One video making the rounds online shows him being held back by security as a fan let rip, telling him to just fuck off and calling him a loser and an embarrassment. It was a scene, to put it mildly. As the team, including the likes of Cyril Desires and John Soutar, made their way back to the bus, the boos followed them. And the chant that seemed to sum up the mood? Sack the board. And now, here we are, 5 points adrift of Celtic and Aberdeen, and even sitting behind newly promoted Dundee United in the Premiership. It's a tough time to be a Rangers fan, that's for sure.